There is so much to unpack during the scene where Coraline Jones's family arrive at the Pink Palace apartments. So let's dive in to analyze everything. Welcome back to Seen It Saturdays here on the Fangirl. I'm your movie nerd hostess, McGann. Please remember to subscribe, comment, share. All of those good things really help me out. Also, don't forget to join channel memberships. I could really use some extra support right now. And hopefully, scene 1 of this project is still visible today. I got a copyright claim from a terrible third-party company. Anyways, today is scene 2 of Coraline, and since I said we would count venue changes as a scene change, we are looking at the Jones family arriving to the Pink Palace all the way through Coraline getting to the top of the hill. Technically, that's all outside of the Pink Palace, so one location. And there's a lot of tiny details on screen that get forgotten by the time Coraline steps into the fairy ring. So again, we're between Coraline the doll floating out the window and Coraline the person making it to the fairy ring. Let's do this. So we start the scene by panning down from a very gray, overcast sky. It's all clouds up there, which again sets a beautiful mood for the audience. It's not a bright, shiny, sunny day, which would be more symbolic for happiness. It's pretty icky out, and it could rain at any time, which gives us the impression of sadness, despair, a looming problem. And having the foresight to realize that bad things are going to happen, that makes sense. But also, let's not forget that Coraline is angry about this move. She did not want to go from Michigan to Oregon, so it's almost like the real world is being influenced by Coraline's personal feelings. And as we pan down to the house, we see Mr. Bobinsky on the roof doing squats, and he's doing it kind of loudly. Now, one of my first theory bits was that no one interacts with the residents of the Pink Palace until Coraline goes through the little door. And of course, many people point to this scene where we see 2 of the residents in a time frame that, yeah, clearly would have to make this the real world. However, I still disagree about the residents. If we are looking at a layered trap, meaning the residents of the Pink Palace are in an alternate reality, there could be a veil over the residents to where no one else can see them. Sort of how the fairy realm tends to get explained, where the fairies can see us, but we cannot see them. And there is some curiously vague evidence that I think supports my claim. For example, a lot of people have said the Jones family drives up in their Volkswagen Beetle and honk at Bobinsky so they see him. But no, they actually don't do that. The Beetle does honk 3 times, but Bobinsky seems to curse them out in Russian. I'm not clear why he's so offended. Maybe they broke his concentration? But the Beetle is honking at the moving truck to alert the truck that the small car is trying to slip by while the big truck is backing up. I mean, the car makes a move that is, frankly, very dangerous and irresponsible with a child in the back seat. And considering that Mel Jones, Coraline's mother, has a neck brace and mentions a car accident, that is exactly the type of reckless driving that I would expect from Mel. Now, to be fair, we don't know if Mel or her husband Charlie is driving because the windows are tinted and light is glaring off of them, but all future context clues considered, it looks like Mel's style of driving to me. However, after yelling at the car, which nobody directly responds to, Bobinsky jumps off the side of the roof, where I don't believe we ever see any kind of railing. His porch is on the right side of the screen, and yes, it does appear that the fireplace connected to his apartment is in use, but other than that and a tattered flag, there's nothing connecting Bobinsky in this scene. He interacts by yelling from a distance, but no one interacts with him or acknowledges any of the other things we're seeing on screen, like the smoke or the flag. Then we get a good close-up of the back of the moving truck. They have Michigan plates and a 313 area code number, which is for Detroit. And there are these weird, frivolous details, like the danger sticker, which is about locking the ramp, and then this one over here for the International Alliance of Movers. These are just extra bits of work that Leica did, and they contribute nothing to the film other than a layer of artistry and realism. It's really impressive that they stop for these unappreciated details. And when the movers open the truck up, We see a lot of the boxes are battered to heck and back. Oh, I feel that as an ex-military wife that was always having to move. But the back of the truck opens and the Jones family really doesn't have a ton of stuff. I mean, at least not when you consider that they're a family of 3 renting a really large apartment. Those of you who read the book already know that the Pink Palace was initially 4 apartments and the little door was a corridor that led to the vacant 4th apartment that was parallel to Coraline's. But in the movie, the house is only divided into the basement unit, attic unit, and a huge house living space unit instead of 2 house units in the middle. And for a house that doesn't rent to families with children, it's really weird to have this middle space that is so large with so many rooms. Like, who else would you rent this to other than a family? Then the movers pass Miss Spink on her motorized chairlift, and a ton of people have said that the movers react to her here as well, which again would disprove my theory. But I say look again. Miss Spink waves, showing that she can see them, but the movers don't react to her. There's a moment where one mover almost drops something and has a shudder, but by the angle of his head, there's no way he could have seen Miss Spink. So he would have been seeing something more around the window area up here. He didn't see the old lady, he just had a stumble that he was correcting. So the Pink Palace residents have no direct interaction with anyone in the real world. Plus, let's also clarify that if this mover had seen an old lady wave at him and he shuddered, that would make him a horrible person. Who does that? It just doesn't make sense for a middle-aged looking man to be rude to an old lady. Next, the movers are leaving the house, taking their moving pads and dollies, and I always assumed it was Mel signing the paperwork, but the green tone of the sweater and the fact that the person looks fairly tall, I guess that's actually Charlie. And so it's Charlie that hands the mover a $1 tip, which is also a funny dollar with, I believe, the director's face on it. But come on, going from Detroit, Michigan to Ashland, Oregon is roughly 2,380 miles or 35 hours of driving. And the Jones family had the nerve to tip their team of professional drivers $1 flipping dollar. Now, hey, I get the thought process that if these movers also own that company and the moving fees are already pretty steep, then the owners would obviously get a bigger cut of that. After all, it's not like the truck says Super Mega Moving Team. They're called the Ranft Brothers, which would imply they're owners and operators. However, I think the bigger issue to focus on is that Coraline's parents are broke, so they don't have money to tip. Either that, or they are just not very great people to begin with, and it's not just Coraline that they slight. I think there's room to interpret this either way, because everything about the Jones family is awful from the first second they get on screen. Mel is about to wreck into the moving truck. Charlie stiffs the movers. These are not A-tier people. We also get a quick visual confirmation from the mailboxes that there are only 3 apartments, not 4 like in the book. So units A, B, and C. Now, as the movers leave, the black cat appears for the first time, and he bends and hides in a way that suggests that the black cat is not very comfortable around this house. He's more guarded here. Then out walks Coraline from the back door. We are finally introduced to our title character, and it's not a great introduction. Oh, but while Coraline is walking outside, this is a good point to stop and notice the background. There are several evergreen style trees, but also quite a few leafless trees, which implies that we're still in the winter months. And that's further reinforced when we see that first magnificent shot of the garden in the backyard. It's like a dead Willy Wonka crazy big garden with a greenhouse off to the left side that I never really noticed before. But as soon as Coraline's feet hit the ground, the camera angle shifts to this very uncomfortable level of voyeurism. It feels like something is watching her from inside the bush, even though Coraline is completely oblivious that she's being stalked. shocked. And likely it's just the black cat's vantage point, but it's still very unsettling. Also, since we have already seen the cat on screen, that might not be his view of the world. That could be the Coraline doll observing the situation. Then Coraline snaps off a branch and scrapes off the leaves, telling us as the audience that she has no problem molding the world to fit her own desires. She's not gentle with the bush. She takes what she wants and makes things the way that she wants them in a very impulsive way. And the movie does a pretty good job at making poison oak leaves, which we know now that will be an annoyance to Coraline later, so this moment with the stick illustrates to us that Coraline rushes into things without understanding them or thinking them through. She didn't evaluate what kind of bush is this. She just said, hey, I want a branch off of this living bush, snapped one off, and put her hands all over the foliage. This could have been completely avoided if Coraline stopped to think. Then Coraline uses the stick as a dowsing rod, pretending that it's pulling her through the garden. And that's where the black cat jumps out of the bushes. Which, yes, that is a solid case that we have the cat watching Coraline, but we also don't know where the doll is right now either. And there is a reason that I've got this question in my mind about where the doll is, but we'll get more into that when the doll comes back on screen. Now, what I find interesting about the garden is that it's not just dead, but it is so twisted up and mangled. It looks like the plants were put through physical pain here. And then we get another shot of what feels like Coraline being watched under the bridge. The way the camera pans feels like she's being observed, and it's not in a way that comes off like the camera is just following her movement. It's easy to assume this is the cat again, but then that does make it odd that the cat managed to get above Coraline on the hillside path. How did Coraline not see the cat cross her path? The cat was behind her, and it looks very steep here, so I doubt that the cat climbed straight up, but Coraline is on the path, and then the cat knocks loose some rocks, so first Coraline seemed a little bit scared, but then she looks angry and throws a rock, showing us again that she's impulsive and quick to have a bad temper instead of stopping to think things through, and that for Coraline, fear does not make her run away, it makes her angry, it makes her stand her ground. Well, at least at first, because when the cat yowls at her from behind the rocks, Coraline does get scared and run away, but she doesn't even run towards the house, towards her known safety. She runs deeper into what could be a bad, dangerous situation. What if that noise had come from a mountain lion that was about to take her face off? And the cat just very judgingly watches Coraline scamper off. But then here is my favorite piece of this scene. Coraline runs through this apple orchard that has clearly been abandoned. All the trees are dead and we see rotted fruit hanging off of it. And this orchard does not look like it's down for the winter. It looks like these trees have withered and died. There's barely a hint of grass or anything plant-based in this area. And I wonder if there is something like a well nearby that has been poisoned and that's why the trees look this bad. There's also an abandoned tractor, which is a weird item to leave behind and to leave out in the elements. If the orchard was abandoned, that tractor is a piece of machinery of value that the orchard owner could have sold. But instead it comes off like this place was abandoned in a hurry. And I wonder if it is connected to the Lovats, which is Wybe's family. That maybe this was the orchard that the Lovat family had moved to town to take care of, to manage, to own, whatever. And when their daughter disappeared, they either ran away from the property quickly, stopped working on the orchard, or other weird things were going on to where the orchard was no longer profitable. It's hard to say. We don't get enough details to know what happened to the orchard other than it looks spooky AF. And once Coraline passes the cart, it has a shimmy moment. I can't quite tell if she personally bumped into it or not, but we see again that the the wagon and baskets were abandoned just right here in the field. There's even rotted apples in there, so again, somebody left here in a hurry. And it's very hard to make this out, but it looks like a rat is in that second basket and starts scurrying away after the cart gets bumped. It is such an unsettling moment that paints such a freaky picture, and I don't think that this is valued enough. Plus, this orchard is a huge deal towards the end of the movie, but we'll get to that when we get to that point. Finally, Coraline reaches the fairy ring, and that's where we're calling it for today. Next week, we will cover Wybie's introduction to the film. So thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, leave me another comment and let me know. I might be overthinking it, but that's literally my job. And to any of my members here on YouTube, a huge bottom of my heart thank you for all of your help and support. If you would like to become a paid channel member, there is a link in the description below. Thanks again, guys. Love you. Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family